Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you and Jonathan in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Jonathan, what's on your mind today?
Hey, how you doing, Tom?
Good. What's up?
Okay, the arts. Let's just start real quick. National endowment funding's been up consistently.
Okay.
They give half their money to the poor, and much of it's given to K through 12. So let's just start there.
I thought so. How,
unequivocally, I have no idea who this guy is. He's absolutely off the wall. And a couple other things. Our NEA is a fraction of what Europe pays for their arts funding.
Right.
Let's start there. And but there's a few other things. I mean, I just don't know where to begin. I mean, we're fund. The whole point of art is that it transcends politics. I mean, when we fund Beethoven and Mozart and Gershwin, I mean, are we talking about funding rich white people? I mean, that's ludicrous. We're talking about sharing the ideas that have been created by great minds and great artists.
Mm-hmm.
But finally, you have to remember that the first thing a tyrant does, the first thing they do to the artists is they co-opt them or they kill them.
Yep.
And they do that for a very simple reason. They do it because tyrants think in very one-dimensional, black and white ways of thinking. And the whole point of the arts is to teach flexibility, some mental plasticity, tolerance, civility. That's not a great idea in a dictatorship.
Yeah. Here's the one thing that I think maybe you're missing, Jonathan, or maybe I'm just adding to your argument, and that is you mentioned Beethoven and Bach. Gershwin, I think, was publicly. I don't know if he ever got an NEA grant, but he made money. But if you go back in time and you look at Bach and Beethoven and Mozart, they all had wealthy patrons who were either kings or queens or lords or ladies, right? Who were basically the super rich of their day. And those super rich of their day had mind-boggling power. And so when people argue that we need to stop public funding of the arts, what they are really arguing is that we need to have oligarchs funding the arts instead. In fact, the guy that I was just debating essentially said that on multiple occasions. Well, the corollary assumption to that is that, therefore, we must have oligarchs. And I reject that. I think that we should have an absolute wealth tax at $1 billion. Anybody who has more than $1 billion, it's taxed at 100%. If you can't live on $1 billion, you've got a serious problem. We need to roll back the Reagan tax cut and go back to a 74% tax rate on all money earned in today's dollars over $3 million a year. And that will stop.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think the comparison is ludicrous. It's an apples and oranges. Who wants to go back to oligarchs? And if you look past that, I mean, if you read the writings of Beethoven and Mozart and Bach, I mean, they were not that fond of their patrons.
No.
I mean, it was a horrible relationship. But Bach's music, when he died, no one played it for 200 years. I mean, people don't realize that. People just started listening to Bach again when Glenn Gould started playing it in Russia in the 50s. I mean, it's not as simple as that.
Right.
So I totally agree with your argument, and I love your show, and keep up the good work. And I think that the main problem, as you've said in the past, is the voter suppression and the disenfranchisement of blacks at the polls. All of the voters that have been thrown off the voter rolls as a result of the evisceration of the 1965 Voting Rights Act and the corporate money that's poured into the coffers of these politicians.
Yeah, well said. Jonathan, thanks for the call. And Jen in New York City. Hey, Jen, what's on your mind today?
Yes, hi, Tom. It's a great pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.
I admire you so much. And I wanted to call because I was just so outraged by the caller that you had on earlier, Ryan. I forgot his last name, but speaking as someone who is boots on the ground, performing artist, also teacher, I really couldn't believe so many of the false things that were coming out of his mouth, including linking the NEA funding to a decrease in people coming to see artistic events. I'm glad that you finally got him on the point that these things are not related. And what's more to blame is Reaganomics and the last, 20, 30 years economic situation in which people simply don't have the means to attend the theater and to attend concerts. They don't have the means to pay the babysitter and then get the tickets, and it's all part of a bigger problem.
And very often they don't have the time because they're working 2 and 3 jobs.
Exactly, and that was my other point too. I mean, I entered the workforce the year before the recession started, and I would talk to people at auditions and at things like that, and they'd say, this seems like has it always been this hard? Because I know that it's a tough business. Everybody's really trying to get work all the time, and it's really tough. And they would say, yeah, it's always been hard, but this is a whole other story. Once that recession hit, I mean, theaters were closing left and right. People were taking jobs, sometimes big name people, for $500 a week, $400 a week, $200 a week. I mean, theaters were really suffering. People were going after jobs that weren't going to provide them, benefits that were very low salaries, and it really makes an impact. And your caller earlier, the libertarian who, is I guess a visual artist. I'm sure there are some visual artists who are able to maybe sustain some kind of a hand-to-mouth lifestyle with, some wealthy patrons supporting their work. But when you talk about especially bigger things, bigger productions, Broadway musicals, theater, concerts, concert series, I mean, that's a whole different ballgame of money. Operas, ballet companies, I mean, just to license musical, an out-of-town theater company, just to license a musical is thousands of dollars,
right.
Much less all the performers you need for a show, many of whom are union. Thankfully, I'm a union performer, but a lot of people I know weren't, and they were, really, really struggling. So this kind of stuff, the economy greatly, greatly affects the ability of artists and scenic designers and sound people and painters and dressers and costumers and ushers and ticket takers. I mean, there is a gigantic economy surrounding art. And my other point that I would just like to make is, excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. As someone who also works with children and trying to expose children to the power of art and music and theater, I cannot tell you, and it really has been a huge part of my life to see how much music and expression and theater and working together and working together as a team and cooperation, and even just the act of making music or playing a character in a show I have seen children who have some very strong difficulties. You wouldn't believe what sometimes music does for autistic children, for children with behavioral problems, or difficulties at home. Children who don't feel valued, who somehow feel like they can connect to something, and maybe they'll never end up being a professional performer or an artist or musician, but the greater perspective and the compassion and the values of discipline and hard work and sticking to something and working together as a group and listening to each other and communicating and accepting criticism, being able to work with that and then carry on, the ability to make a mistake on stage and pick yourself up and keep going. All of these things are invaluable lessons for young people, no matter what they end up doing.
Yep. Jen, I've got to move along, but I completely agree with you. Very, very well said. And thank you for the call. Debbie in Lake Villa, Illinois. Hey, Debbie, what's on your mind today?
Hi. It's out of my comfort zone to call, but it just outraged me. I was listening to the radio, and you really can't quantify what art does for you. I'm a dog groomer, and I learned so much in my art classes at school to teach me how to look at something, and part of grooming is shapes and that kind of fine-tuning that you get in art class. Mm-hmm. And just because I'm not a performing artist doesn't mean that art hasn't impacted me greatly in my life.
Well, and arguably, there's a dimension of art to what all of us do all the time with our lives. You know, I mean, some people just overtly think of their lives as performance art, but you know, there just as you said, you know, that understanding of the relationship of things to each other and aesthetics and things like that. I mean, this is part of our daily life. It's part of our daily work for most of us.
And I don't think I would get any funding from the Koch brothers for my art class so that I could be more successful in my job.
Well, you might if it was paintings of, you know, if you were performing Atlas Shrugged. Sorry, bad joke.
That's true.
Yeah. Debbie, thank you for the call. Very, very well said, and thanks for listening to WCPT. Mark in Mason City, Iowa, listening on Sirius XM. Hey, Mark, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. I just listened to the two right-wing people that you had on earlier. Iowa gives a lot of tax corporate giveaways away, and that's what makes the Koch brothers and these rich people look really, really well, because they're using your money and my money to do that.
Elizabeth in Albuquerque, New Mexico, watching us on Free Speech TV on Roku. That's great. That's how we get Free Speech TV at home. Elizabeth, welcome to the program. What's up?
Thank you. I'm an artist from a family of artists, and my husband went to film school. He was also a dancer. He was from India. And he used to say that the thing is that art is meant to show people what they need to see, as opposed to what they want to see. And I think that's what's so frightening with these people about art and how they want to get rid of it. I remember when Robert Mapplethorpe had an exhibit of his artwork, and that was the last time there was a big dust-up about wanting to defund the NEA.
Yeah, wasn't that around the crucifix and a bottle of urine?
That's right. It was, I won't say what the title was, but yes, that was the idea. And basically what he was trying to say is that as a gay man, that he was being assaulted by conservative Christians who were, telling him he was evil.
Yeah, and this was the tail end of, as I recall, this was the tail end of the AIDS epidemic before they had developed the modern drugs that can hold it at bay.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. So I think that's what's so frightening for these people who want to control the message. And the way they do control the message right now, especially, is to give people what they want to see. Right. Not what they need to see.
Yeah, and it's like saying, "Hey, we've got hungry people here. Let's feed them ding-dongs."
Right, right. Exactly. Well, bread and circuses.
Yeah. Maybe we should rewrite that to white bread and circus. Got it. Elizabeth, well said. Thank you very much for the call. And thanks for watching Free Speech TV. Jennifer, thanks for watching Free Speech in Madison, Wisconsin. What's on your mind?
Hi. Well, I wanted to speak to the arts as well. I just feel like the people who want to destroy the NEA want to control the arts, much as the oligarchies do. They don't like what artists think often. Artists tend to be very independent thinking and forward thinking, and I think much as Shostakovich was controlled by by Stalin. I think it's the same way here with the people in power. They would not like to see artists succeed in making their statements.
Well, and art has historically been a vehicle for rebellion and resistance. I mean, right down to the old nursery tales. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Yep. That was a joke about a British king, as I recall.
Right.
And Mary so contrary. That was I think it was Mary Queen of Scots. But these were protest movements basically being done in the guise of art. And
exactly.
And you can see where autocrats, oligarchs, Republicans would not want that to happen. How dare these people talk about us? And then, you look even at the pop arts. I mean, what's happening right now is that the most popular of the pop arts, the comedy shows on TV and whatnot, the most popular ones are the ones that are taking on Trump. That's got to, cause them to grit their teeth even more. Oh, my God, those artists, we can't have those comedians. We can't have that. Jennifer, well said. Thank you very much. And thanks for the call. Thanks for watching Free Speech TV.